Coming to you live from the JRE Tobacco Aladino Mobile Studios, it's the Cigar Pulpit.
And I want to welcome everybody to the Cigar Pulpit Podcast. I am not the Bishop of the Burn. I am not Nick Miller. Nick Miller asked me to fill in. I am Mr. Jonathan from the Cigar Authority Podcast, and I'm joined all the way from Kuwait by John Calder.
Hello, everyone. Pleasure to be here.
John is a listener of the Cigar Authority, so we have a Cigar Authority total takeover right now. In the studio here. This is my studio at home. I'm off today from work and filling in on a cigar podcast. So, John, what makes you qualified to be on a cigar podcast?
I smoke cigars. I would say, if you are the Cigar Authority, there are not many of you. I think a lot more people are going to be in my boat. Enthusiastic amateurs. So maybe, just maybe, people might relate a little bit more to me rather than to you. There are very few people that relate to you.
All right, so we're going to do a couple of things during the show today. John and I had an interesting conversation where he has a problem with David Garofalo's Strengh-O-Meter. So we're going to get into that later on in the show, and John has an idea for a full fix of the Strengh-O-Meter as he sees it. This is not an endorsement by me. This is not an endorsement by the Cigar Authority, and we're going to find out exactly why John hates David Garofalo later on in the show. But right now, I want to talk about the cigars that we're going to smoke. So on the show, if you missed it this past Saturday, we'll call it the Big Show, we had Tim Ozgener on, and we had an event in the shop. And part of the event in the shop was this tasting where he has the different components of two different cigars. So we have wrapper binder and filler happening in two of the cigars here, and then the same on the other two that match up with two of his cigars. So we'll get into the cigars because there's a cool little booklet that we're just going to follow along with. So, but before we do that, we're going to do our official cut. And the official cut is brought to you by 2guyscigars.com. That's the number 2guyscigars.com. Two Guys has been around for 40 years, and they are the trusted name in the cigar industry. Everybody knows Two Guys, but if you don't, please give them a try. You won't be sorry. Family owned and operated, 2guyscigars.com does the very best to provide a great selection, fair prices, and customer service. What more could you want? Please go to 2guyscigars.com for your next cigar purchase and tell them the Cigar Pulpit sent you. That's the number 2guyscigars.com. I wasn't pledging allegiance there. I was covering up the Two Guys logo on my vest. Yes, I know it's my day off, but I wear my Two Guys gear all the time. I'm proud of it. I love it. All right, so I'm going to look here in the booklet, John, and see which cigar we should be starting with. It says Jalapa Seco. So this is part of a tasting where we can dissect the main cigar by tasting the individual components by themselves. So we cheated and looked ahead on this, so we know that the first...
We did our homework.
...cigar here, this is the Nicaraguan Jalapa. And according to the booklet, this is the binder and part of the filler for the Bosphorus by Ozgener Family Cigars.
Does it tell us what the other fillers are? Just so we can try and get a picture of what else might be interacting.
All right, so the other fillers are just Nicaraguan. So
no. No, to answer my question.
Yeah, no, it doesn't. So they specifically list the binder as Jalapa, and I bet there's There is some Ometempe and Esteli. It does say it in the description below.
Good.
They don't list it up top.
Sure.
So this is the Jalapa leaf, and it does come pre-cut. We are going to have to cut a cigar, so don't panic, Dave. We will have to do it. But I'm going to light this up here. Now, it's been a while since I've smoked just Jalapa tobacco. Oh, yeah. This brings me back to a trip in 2015, 2016. I went to see the Perdomo facility, and we got a chance to smoke some individual components there. This doesn't taste like Nick's Jalapa, but the base notes, you get some sweetness. Imagine if the exact spot where the caramelization on a marshmallow leaks over and misses the chocolate and gets on the graham cracker. This is sweet and flowery.
Still think there's an earthy component there as well. I think.
Well, graham crackers are the earthy cracker.
I think that's an American thing. I don't think I've ever had graham crackers in my puff.
Have you eaten a graham cracker before?
That's what I'm saying. I don't think I've ever had one in my life. I don't. The brand. I mean, I hear you talk about it, but.
So in the interest of full disclosure, he lives in Kuwait because he married a Kuwaiti woman, but
Oh yeah, sure.
John is from Scotland.
Correct.
So hence the funny accent.
You have a funny accent.
I do have a funny accent. All right.
But you did agree there is an earthy component.
There is
I
a
just
little
said it in a different way. Fine.
No, there is an earthy component. I'll give you that. Now we're going to crack open the next one because the official cutting was brought to you by two guys. We're going to have to actually cut something soon.
Well, we've got the.
We got the real cigars, and
Yeah,
we'll smoke the real cigars along with this experiment.
Are we going to switch back and forth between the components?
Yes,
and
we are.
This is exciting. I don't know what it's like to watch, but it's exciting to be part of.
All right. Ooh, that's a little sharper, flavor-wise. That's straight down the middle of the tongue. So this component is Habano 2000, which is the wrapper. So we have the wrapper, and we have one of three components.
Oh yeah, it's.
All right, so you have your other cigar with you? So take your Jalapa, puff that first, then right to the wrapper. So back to back, you're starting to see, or I'm starting to see, a little bit of what the final blend might taste like. It's not completely balanced, it's not well-rounded,
No.
but those individual components, and let's try it the other way. We'll try wrapper first and then filler. The order of operations matters. It's better that way. Now let's try both at the same time. All right, so remember that. I'm going to set mine off to the side here so we don't get them confused in the ashtray.
That is a really interesting experience.
All right, make sure you're on that mic. We're going headphones free today because I wish you could see my setup. It's so ghetto. I happen to have had a sound card that has two microphone inputs, and we're going to rely on Nick Miller to do some post-editing here.
Good luck, Nick.
And add all of his elements. So I don't think we'll miss anything, but if there's some dead air or whatever, hopefully Nick cuts it out. All right. The official cutting brought to you by two guys. This one we have to actually cut, pay attention to. I can still taste the filler and the wrapper on my palate.
Yeah, it's sitting there, isn't it?
Yeah, it's aggressive. Give this a little toasty toast. Riveting radio here.
Outstanding.
I wonder if there was something that was supposed to play during that. I think there was. Luckily, his podcast is not all that professionally done, so...
Good, because I'm a rank amateur.
Here's what we're going to do. We're going to pause for 45 seconds while the Aladino commercial plays.
Some say cigars are all the same. It's just not true. It's you I have to blame.
Well, I don't know, 'cause what I know, there is a cigar called Aladino
Corojo. Aladino Corojo. Aladino Corojo. They say authentic, so we're not confused, while the others say it's a word that's just abused.
I guess that's so, they can't compete. At least I'm sure Aladino can't be beat.
Corojo. Aladino Corojo. Aladino Corojo. Aladino Cigars uses authentic Corojo tobacco from JRE Tobacco. This is the greatest commercial you ever heard.
Yeah.
I think that's enough time. If not, just loop some of the stuff from us smoking, I guess.
Are we allowed to talk to you in like commercial breaks and that?
He really shouldn't talk over the commercial break. He could mute us.
Yeah,
but
I didn't. Yeah, that's why I didn't. I waited till you talked.
All right, so we're going to do a couple of things here. We're going to smoke this cigar. Now, before we get too far into the cigar, I am tasting definitely the sharpness of the wrapper has been tampered down by the blend
100%,
dramatically.
100%.
But
that's the most notable thing for me.
The flavor of it is there.
For sure.
So smoking just the wrapper here, and then in the blend, it jumps right to the forefront.
And I just ashed myself.
That's all right. We have people for that. It's me, but we do have people for that. Now I'm going to jump over to the filler again.
See, for me, the it's sweeter. I taste more sweetness from the filler. It wasn't particularly sweet when we had it initially, but those were the two things that jumped out at me when smoking the actual cigar. It was the almost bitterness of the wrapper was sort of tempered down a little, but the sweetness of the jalapa was enhanced for me.
Yeah, I can agree with that. So I misspoke before. I thought this was the boss verse. The boss verse is next. This is the Aramas.
Aramas.
I never heard of that before, so this is my first time smoking that one. But interesting to be able to separate the flavor components and be able to see what each component does in the cigar. Now, you could do this on your own. You have to buy 2 cigars and get yourself a razor blade and just cut that cigar, and then you got to cut the wrapper and the binder, and you can take the wrapper and the binder and roll up little cheroots and get the individual components and see what those taste like. This is easier if you know that Tim Ozgener is going to be in town. If you see there's a local shop that is having an event, jump on board. They have these tasting packs. There's a little disposable ashtray, and in a lot of times, Tim will do the tasting himself and explain to you, like I'm doing here, what is happening in the cigar. Or maybe you see the event and maybe Tim's not doing it. He didn't do it. We didn't have it set up in advance at our shop. The packs kind of showed up and we didn't know they were going to be there. So we didn't have it set up where he had a microphone and he could go through it and explain to us. And we really already had the show notes done. So Tim was nice enough to offer the packs to people as a buying incentive. If you bought a box, you got your hat and the sample packs here and maybe a couple extra cigars. And then you could do the experiment at home. And the book is pretty self-explanatory, and you can figure out pretty easily which cigars are which that go to which blend. So, all right, that said, we're going to talk about why John hates David Garofalo. Take it away, John.
I don't hate David Garofalo. That's slander. But no, look, I'm not the only one that has had issues with the Strengh-O-Meter. It's been going on for about a year now, maybe.
Oh yeah,
close to.
Yeah, right about there.
Forgive me for saying, Dave, but it doesn't seem to be gaining any traction. It doesn't seem to be moving.
That's not true. I've heard at least one manufacturer putting Strength-O-Meter ratings on their box.
Really? Who?
I can't say. All right, maybe it was Dave. Maybe it's on a box. They may be coming out soon. But that is traction. Even if it's manufactured traction, it's still traction.
I stand corrected. So, my main issue is what is strength? What do we mean when we talk about strength? For me, strength is in relation to the nicotine content. How strong is a cigar from a nicotine point of view? The other component I look for in a cigar is body. Body to me is intensity of flavor. Those two have a relationship, but I think they're very independent of each other.
Would you say they're monogamous? I'm kidding. That's all right. So the Strength-O-Meter as it stands looks like this. I'm going to take the really high tech here in Studio B of the Studio 21 Podcast Cafe. Really technical. I mean, I spared no expense on this display.
None.
And we'll just pin that back up. So Strength-O-Meter as it stands, it goes from 1, because there is no such thing as 0 strength in a cigar. There's going to be something there. So the lowest level is 1, and it goes all the way up to 10. And as long as the entire panel agrees, then the cigar can make it onto the Strength-O-Meter. Now, the panel is sometimes made up of David Garofalo, myself, and Ed Sullivan. And then other times we have guests, and the guests' input for some reason matter for the cigar making it on the Strength-O-Meter, which just adds another layer of disagreement because everyone's palate's a little different.
Everyone's nicotine tolerance is different.
But you also have a manufacturer that is trying to sell cigars. And listen, I sell cigars too, but my definition of strength can be way more broad with 1,100 open boxes. I can say something like it's between 2 and 4. Well, maybe I could say 3, but frequently when I'm on the sales floor, I don't know what someone's tolerance is. You know, someone will say to me, I like mild cigars. I smoke nothing but Padron 1000 series. I'm not looking to argue with the guy, but that's not a mild cigar. Depending on whether you're smoking natural Maduro, big or smaller, you could be anywhere from 5 to 7 on 1000 series. And I've even seen a little discrepancy, because that's Padron's lower tier, a little discrepancy between the inside of a 4000. You have some that are 5s and you have some that are 7s, just inside that little mini line within the line. So when you get into their more expensive stuff, you get more consistency. 1926, 1964, the whole Hammer series, their limited editions, the 50th, the 60th. you start to see what Padron can do as far as really being consistent. But the 1000 series, it really is the beef
budget,
stew.
the budget Padron.
Right, it's the beef stew of the factory where whatever's left over is that's what goes in there, so they're not wasting tobacco. So a manufacturer, though, is trying to hit a target market. They're trying to be one of the cigars I recommend inside the shop, inside that 1100 open box choice spectrum. So the manufacturer wants to dial it in a little deeper and say, we are the everyman's 3, or we are the affluent 7. And then your price point kind of dials in there. So what is McAuliffe Black? McAuliffe Black is the everyman's 6 in strength on the Strength-O-Meter. Now, to John's point, the body of a McAuliffe Black,
for me, it's more.
It's considerably higher than a 6.
I would say 8, maybe 8.5.
Yeah. And some of them, again, this is a lower price cigar, so you have some inconsistencies there.
True.
You could maybe
Very
even make
few.
the argument that sometimes you get a 9 in flavor, but that's not strength.
Correct.
So
Correct.
we have another chart for you folks. If you'll just indulge me one moment, maybe John, you can add some filler here.
No, I think it makes a good point. Also to the point about even flavor numbers within cigars can change. There are myriad other factors that can influence your smoking experience on the day. Hydration. Have you been drinking? What you're pairing with it. You pairing alcohol, coffee. Wine, whatever that might be. What have you had to eat today? So again, there are variables there that can affect the body that you're experiencing in a cigar.
Well done.
Is that enough?
Yeah, that was great. It's like you're a professional. And as long as I don't have to read, I can wear my glasses. Now I can see the screen and I know if we have the levels. Because again, no headphones, so Dave would be horrified, and as would Ed Sullivan. All right,
They're
so
not here.
on our very high-end chart that we have strength listed as 1 through 10
Yes.
on the vertical axis.
So we're keeping the skeleton of the Strength-O-Meter. This is not a complete revamp. All I'm looking to do is to add another dimension.
So we're gonna go two-dimensional with this.
We are.
So we have strength going 1 to 10 up top,
Yes.
and we have body going 1 to 10 from left to right or right to left, depending on how you're looking at the screen here.
Yes.
I don't know if it flips on the TV or not, but whatever.
We'll find out later.
So now a cigar could find its positioning like a McAuliffe, where it may be
Well, 6 in
a
strength.
6 in strength,
Which 5 or 6, yes, I would agree with that.
and then I'm gonna grab my marker here and make a little dot.
Try not to batter your microphone. Would be easier if we'd graphed out
Right.
all the lines on graph
So
paper,
it's-
but
It shows up
There you go.
somewhere over here.
yes, it does.
Now you could take a cigar like there was a brand that came out called El Talio. We did smoke it on the show. It was all stems. They found a way to add some additional fermentation and roll the stems out and make them flat, and it had a very light aromatic tea type flavor to it, and that was extremely strong nicotine and also very light in body. So
Excellent.
that would fall up there.
Now, where would that fall on the Strength-O-Meter as it stands just now? Where would that go?
It would be a 9 or a 10. It was up there. I mean, you could make yourself sick smoking that cigar too fast. So what I do find interesting about this is that it does add another dimension, but I think that if you'll indulge me, we did have this conversation already, so I kind of know what's coming as far as where John's going with this. the confusion on this is going to be the numbers. So would we average the numbers, or would we say that this is a 39, meaning 3-9?
No, so I would have, as we stand, the McAuliffe Black, for example, we're going to have, 6 on strength and 8 on body. It's a 6-8.
All right, I think I have an improvement.
6-8. You have an improvement?
I believe I do. Stand by.
Outstanding.
Son of a...
Oh, I should maybe be doing some more filler. No, this Aramas is really, really nice. The differences between the fumars, the individual components, and the finished product, it's really interesting. You can taste the individual components, but then obviously it's not just the Nicaraguan jalapa in the binder. There are also other binder components in there, but it's really interesting.
Filler components, you mean, but yes.
Did I say binder?
You said binder, that's all right.
Faux pas.
It's your first time on a podcast.
Probably the last.
Yeah, you make a great point. What I like about this experiment is how sharp that Habano 2000 was.
Yes.
If I smoked that...
Borderline bitter.
Oh, yeah. Right up the tongue, and you could blow your palate out if you smoked that as a cigar, just by itself.
That would be unpleasant.
It would be unpleasant.
That would be unpleasant.
But it's amazing to me that a blender smoked that and said, oh, this is terrible. But I know where to put this in the spectrum of the blend and really make it shine. And they did that. It's amazing. The more I get to know about the cigar industry, the more I understand that I know very
nothing.
little. I know nothing.
Oh, it's...
I can talk for 2 hours about cigars once a week, but, Dave does most of the talking.
Yes, he does. Most of the reading.
So, a nice dig. But you go through an experiment like this, and I would not be able to do it. And I know about tobacco, and I know about cigars, and I know what I like. I know what consumers like. I can match people up to finished cigars. But there is no fucking way I would smoke that Habano 2000 and go, oh, yeah, I know where to put this.
I think to me it's like, so, we can cook. Like, we can cook. We can go in the kitchen and we can make ourselves dinner. But does that necessarily mean that we could go then into a Michelin restaurant and cook Michelin standard food?
Maybe not, but we could take a steak
Exactly.
and say, all right, it needs more salt. Because it's a ribeye and it's fattier, and to be able to balance that out, it needs more salt. And you know what? While I'm at it, it needs some acidity, so maybe a little balsamic reduction, and because we understand how to make something delicious in that respect. But I've never heard somebody break down the flavor components of what makes a balanced cigar. I've smoked balanced cigars, but I haven't had somebody say, well, you need 20% bitter, and you need 20% sweet, and you need 20% of this and 20% of that. And if you don't hit this magic formula, then you don't have a good cigar. I have heard that you could take almost, and maybe there's some tobaccos that don't play well with each other, but you could have 1/3 of your filler be low priming, 1/3 be middle priming, and 1/3 be high priming, and you could get a cigar that performs like a cigar and tastes okay. Age of the tobacco notwithstanding, making sure the cigar does go through its sick period and doesn't have the ammonia content. But I've heard that early rudimentary cigars, that was the makeup, and that was the makeup because they needed to go through their entire crop. And that gives you some combustibility with low primings. It gives you some aroma because the Taino Indians would have used the smoke as an offering to their goddess Atabey. So then, and also a little bit of strength. And the strength is important. The nicotine strength is important to give you, again, it's a religious ceremony to give you the feeling that you're connecting religiously with your goddess, in this case, Atabey. So that's the story that I heard, and I heard it from a good source, Nelson Alfonso, who is a cigar historian, and that's what he said those cigars would have been made out of, and for the simple reason just to go through the crop all at the same time. But they didn't have multiple different crops. They weren't blending for flavor. They were growing a plant, probably keeping the seeds on the plant, so the leaves would have grown smaller and perhaps more bitter. And then,
Probably.
because you think about broadleaf, the wider those leaves get, the sweeter the tobacco is.
Yeah.
So little tiny kind of runt leaves, or some people use those, and I've only seen one picture, the swamp sucker tobacco, and the leaves are, at least the picture I saw was the leaves were considerably smaller, and that is a tobacco that is delicious in very small quantities. In high quantities, little too earthy on the spectrum.
I guess like the Corona leaves, a little like that maybe.
Yeah, a little bit like that.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. So here's my improvement. So that we don't have two numbers, we have numbers on the vertical for strength, and we have letters on the horizontal for body.
I like it.
So now you could say that McAuliffe Black is H6. Now, Dave, if you're still listening and you haven't just
You haven't had an anger stroke.
hung up the phone or turned off the phone or whatever, think about the possibilities of this, because now we can dial into very specific flavor profiles where somebody might like H level flavor and they want 3s in strength. Well, you're going to a trade show. We could evaluate our entire store based on this chart that John and I have come up with. Mostly John. I got to give John the credit. I was trying to jump in there, but I can't do it. He's been kind enough to be on the podcast with me here. So you have H level flavor and 6 level strength, and we could find a bunch of other cigars that fall right in that area, and I'd even be willing to give up the decimal points, because if I needed a half decimal point, I could bump on the flavor spectrum.
Exactly. And I think as well, it gives, and I mean, to talk to Dave, I mean, the Strengh-O-Meter would have been designed in part to help consumers, to give them some information
Absolutely,
about
be a
the cigar.
tool.
So this adds some information. This gives you more than the Strength-O-Meter does on its own. Like Mr. J was saying, you could have people that love full body cigars who are looking at, maybe G, H, and I, but they just cannot tolerate nicotine. So they really, really need to be in and around probably maybe the 2, 3, 4. So, on our chart, you put a nice big circle around, because, I mean, fine, if we want to go I, well, we can include some possibly G and H. If they really struggle with the nicotine, 2, 3, 4. So because you then start to develop a circle, you're going to end up hitting upon quite a lot of different brands, quite a lot of different options.
I think so. I think you're going to be able to make a little oval and say, all right, I like cigars that fall in this area, or maybe a circle or a square, whatever.
Absolutely.
Ed Sullivan would be a bit of an anomaly, because his cigars that he likes are all over. But one thing that I would say, this is like the crazy hot matrix. Have you ever seen that video?
No.
Where there's certain zones, like there's no-go zones
Yes.
where it's a 10 hot and a 0 crazy, and that's not a girl, that's a dude. really, really
I
chill.
do, yes.
Whatever.
I
So,
do.
But Ed Sullivan, I would say probably doesn't go below an E in the flavor,
Yeah, in the body.
in the
Sure.
body, and then he's all over the place on the strength. But he doesn't smoke anything that's flavorless or low flavor or low body. He smokes medium to full body and all over the place on the strength.
Oh, and that's fine. So E here, then, like, his area is huge. He has a massive selection that he can then go and pick from. It's...
I'm actually a little jealous of his selection. It is massive. I've seen it.
Yeah.
All right. As you're giving me some, well, you know what? Before I even look at the thing, let's try this experiment now that we know what we're doing, and we're going to move on to the next two cheroots, which are going to be.
We had some Corojo, I think, didn't we? One of them was
Yeah. So we have Dominican
Corojo.
Corojo and then the Mexican San Andreas.
That's right.
So those are the next two cheroots. We'll get those opened up.
Before we start then, just knowing these individual components, or when you have tasted cigars previously that contain these particular tobaccos, what are you expecting from these?
Well, I'm expecting the Corojo to have some inherent spice, and I'm expecting the San Andreas to be a little earthy, and maybe a hint of sweetness. Man, the draw is so effortless.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
the only thing that's not fair about this experiment is the draw on the cheroots is like a
World-class.
straw.
It's world class.
It's too much. So you're almost able to heat the tobacco up too much that's probably where the palate fatigue comes from if you smoke them too much.
Oh, we're doing Corojo first. Right, let's go.
And they tend to make a mess. I got ash all over me.
Oh, good. I'm not the only one that ashed myself. Brilliant. Now we both look like a pair of Egypts.
I don't know what that means. It's some sort of Scot expression.
That's alright. More Irish though. A nod to my Irish brothers out there. I've been
What
watching
similarities
I've been-
between
Oh, yeah.
Irish and Scotland?
Yeah, for sure.
Because it seems like when I made the mistake one time of somebody was going to Ireland and I said, "Can you bring me back some Scotch?" And they were all offended. So it just seems like there's a lot of offense between the two cultures, but you're in one of the cultures and you say the cultures are similar.
No, for sure. Yeah, for sure. We're similar. I mean, I like history. I could probably sit here for the next hour or two going through, the history of it. But no, we're very
You're the longest
similar.
podcast Nick ever had, and he's not even on it.
And maybe one of the most boring. But no, there's a lot. I mean, over the centuries, we've had a lot of migration between the two countries. We've suffered a lot in terms of political factors, economic factors, sociological factors, political factors. So it's when you certainly compare us to the English. And as well, my Welsh brothers out there as well. We have a very different experience than the English, I think, in terms of history, and I think we share a lot of commonalities that way.
All right, I've lit the Mexican San Andreas, and woof. Whew, is that aggressive?
Corojo's sweeter than I expected.
Yes,
That's significantly sweeter than I expected.
very interesting.
I mean, on Corojo as well, I would normally expect more pepper. I think there is a peppery component to it.
This is Corojo 99. This is not authentic Corojo seed grown
Might be
in
why.
another country.
Might be why.
Little salt too on the Corojo. A little salt,
Yeah.
a little spice,
Yeah.
and a little, you're right, a little sweet. And then this Mexican San Andreas
This
almost
is
has
delicious.
it's perfumey.
This is delicious. Out of all of these, I don't know, if I had to smoke one, this would be it. This is very, very true to San Andreas, I think.
You definitely, I mean, I was expecting a mouthful of dirt. It's more complex than I expected.
For sure.
I think my favorite, and no surprise to anybody that knows me, is, if of all the cheroots, is the Corojo. I wasn't expecting that level of sweet, like you said.
Mm.
All right. Now let's light up. I don't want to confuse my cheroots, so I'm going to move these two far away. And then have these closer. Now we can light up.
Oh, this is the short Robusto of the Bosphorus, right?
Yes, it is.
And for all of you that didn't know, because Mr. J had to ask me this the other day, the Bosphorus. It's the river that runs through Istanbul.
Formerly Constantinople, if you're a fan of They Might Be Giants.
Very good. Excellent.
Dave right now, who does the game with the music, is like, what? I don't know what that is, because he doesn't know any music from the 90s. That's why.
But the other interesting thing, well, the interesting thing about the Bosphorus being that it actually separates Europe from Asia. Istanbul's a really interesting example of a city that lies within two continents, and the Bosphorus is the border, so to speak.
Yeah, so Ed Sullivan and Tim both said they smoked it on the Bosphorus.
Yeah, that's cool. That's
so they must have been on a boat. I thought it was a statue of some kind, because I'm an uncultured swine.
I would may have been on a boat. Could also have been cafe. Lots and lots of outdoor cafes on the Bosphorus. I doubt they were just standing on one of the bridges. I would assume they were probably sitting doing something. Wonderful city, Istanbul, though. Wow.
Is it?
Oh.
Never been. I don't travel much.
No, you don't, do you?
I'm saying that to somebody that came here from Kuwait just to do a podcast. It's crazy. How did you know that Nick was going to be sick?
Maybe I made him sick.
All right, so I'm going to say, why don't we transition on over to, I don't have a clock going on the thing, so I have no idea how long we've been going for, but
No, we've been havering for a while.
it's feeling a little bit like we could move into the entertainment report. So I'm going to let Nick play the song right now.
It's time for the Villiger Cigars Entertainment Report, brought to you by
Villiger.
Villiger Cigars, one of the leading cigar and cigarello manufacturers in the world, founded in 1888 and still family-owned and operated. Head over to VilligerCigars.com and check the store locator to find a shop near you that carries them. We guarantee that Villiger Cigars will be a wonderful addition to your humidor and cigar rotation.
I don't think it's that long, so I think we're good here. And if
Nice.
not, Nick, you'll just have to do a little looping, buddy.
Good luck.
Be funny if I just had that misremembered and there's no anything and he just leaves this in.
We've
and
been
we're just
sitting here like a
here
couple of lemons
morons.
for half a minute. Fantastic.
So it's the Villiger Entertainment Report, brought to you by Villiger Cigars, and we're here to discuss 3 things that you've watched this week. You're on vacation.
True.
So, anything that's standing out for you?
Well, so I'm not going to take the calendar week. I'm going to go back sort of the last 7 days. First thing on my list has to be Jumanji, the film, Robin Williams.
All right. I was going to say the one with The Rock.
No.
All right.
Well,
the
no.
OG version.
Exactly. So I have 2 young boys, Jockey, 7, and Jimmy, 4. Hi, boys. They're at an age now where they're understanding a lot more. They can accept more from films rather than just slapstick comedy. Anyway, I decided Jumanji would be a good thing to share with them, and they loved it. We have actually watched the other 2 as well. Did you know there are 2 reboots?
No.
Neither did I.
I only knew of the one.
But there are 3 Jumanji films.
What a shame.
Exactly.
They had to take the original that was awesome and
unbelievable.
Turn it into a watered down piece of shit. I digress.
We do.
This week, I watched a classic. The girl I'm seeing, Sonia, her son is into Legos and very into Star Wars Legos. So I was wondering if he had seen Spaceballs, and he said that he saw it when he was very little. He's 12 now, so we put that on, and I forgot how great that movie is. It's so funny, and it still stands up, and it does totally poke fun at Star Wars, but in a very tongue-in-cheek way. And although the comedy is fairly slapstick, it's highbrow for that style of comedy, if you understand what I'm saying there. So that's a movie, any series.
So there is there's a new series that's just been released on Netflix, and almost everybody in the UK is talking about it. It's called Adolescence. So I don't know if you know who Stephen Graham is.
No, I don't.
Fantastic actor from Liverpool. Have you ever seen Boardwalk Empire?
No.
Well, that fell flat on its face.
So I don't travel, and I don't really watch a lot of new movies.
for anyone that has watched Boardwalk Empire, he plays Al Capone in Boardwalk Empire. He is from Liverpool. I actually thought his accent playing Al Capone was actually pretty good. But it's about his family. He has a 13-year-old boy, and the opening scene. It's a 4-part miniseries. It's 4-hour-long episodes. Opening scene of episode 1. There is an armed SWAT team, police team, burst down his door and go and arrest his 13-year-old son and intend to charge him with murder of one of his classmates, a 13-year-old girl. And I'm not even sure you guys will even have access to it. I wonder if it's if it's even available here in the US. So I don't know how much more information you want me to give on that. Well, people
that listen to the Cigar Pulpit are very cultured, and they're well traveled, and they're from all over the globe. So I'm sure somebody somewhere will be able to take that recommendation. Mine is a series of unfortunate events.
Is that the one with Jim Carrey?
No. This is the TV show on, I think it's Netflix or Hulu. I watch it with the kids over there. It's with Neil Patrick Harris, the kid who played Doogie Howser.
Is that also the guy who played Barney? And,
yeah.
Oh, my wife loves How I Met Your Mother. Also say hi to Aisha as well. Might as well get her name.
Very funny show. And it's a little campy, and the kids are the heroes, but it's done well enough that adults can enjoy it. And I honestly don't mind it. I look forward to watching when there's new episodes. So that's what I've been up to. And you got one more, John.
I do. As you might be able to tell from my t-shirt, I am a massive Star Trek fan. And at the moment, I'm going through The Next Generation. I believe I am on maybe season 4 or 5. But I'm one of those really sad people that just cycles Star Trek. Like I will sit and I will watch The Next Generation, and then normal people would then just go and pick something else. But no, I'll pick another Star Trek and I'll keep watching that. So at any point in my life, I will be watching Star Trek at some point.
All right. Well, that's an oldie but a goodie. And I have an oldie but a goodie. I've started going through all 5 seasons of the 80s TV show, The A-Team.
Wow.
I love that show. That show is what got me to both respect and admire the job of welding, because B.A. Baracus was a welder in that series, and when they would build these elaborate tank-looking things, because they're supposed to be special forces, and that's what 80s special forces guys did. Is if you think about the TV shows in the 80s, you had Knight Rider, which was a supercar. You had the A-Team building these crazy vehicles, and you had MacGyver getting himself out of trouble by building or creating something with his vast knowledge of chemistry. That's what we were into in the 80s. Oh, and you had Quantum Leap. Quantum Leap, where the guy could travel in time in his own lifetime and change the course of events, which is pretty fascinating.
Dangerous.
Yeah.
Well, remember what happened in Back to the Future? Back to the Future nearly had sex with his mom.
Yes, but in Back to the Future, he didn't have Ziggy or Quiggy or whatever, or the hologram guy, Sam, to be able to come in, or no, the guy's name was Sam. I forget the other guy's name. But he would come in and he would punch in through AI. They didn't have AI back then, but they had the computer that could tell them what the likely scenarios were, and the guy was always hitting. It never made sense to me that he'd hit technology as he's trying to get the computer to do its thing. Not a good idea. Don't hit your computer if it's not working properly.
Or not hard, anyway.
Right. Well, I don't know that you should hit it at all. All right. So we're going to have another small pause here for the Blackbird segment.
It's time to fly high with Blackbird Cigars. Blackbird Cigars offers you remarkable quality using the most delicate and finest tobacco to always ensure that you're receiving unsurpassed cigars. Blackbird Cigars strives to give you undoubted repeating flavor for every cigar you smoke and impressive quality so that you can always expect greatness. Check out their website for a full list of stores carrying Blackbird Cigars and give them a test flight. Blackbird Cigars can't clip our wings. One day after the NBA announced that they would indefinitely suspend the season due to the rapid spread of the coronavirus in 2020, Cleveland Cavaliers' Kevin Love pledged $100,000 to help arena workers who had a sudden life shift due to the organization's decision. His donation helped support over 1,000 workers that made up the Cavaliers' support staff. Following his announcement, Love inspired other athletes to do the same, and according to Cleveland News, stars from the Milwaukee Bucks and the Detroit Pistons followed in his footsteps. Zion Williamson of the New Orleans Pelicans also announced his plan to cover all salaries for the team's arena staff during the suspension. So be like Kevin Love and these other players and Blackbird Cigars, and don't let anybody clip your wings.
See, that was smart. You grabbed a sip of coffee while the break was happening. I want to take a sip of coffee now, but I'm not going to. So,
guess what, motherfucker?
it's time for 3 cigars that we smoked and enjoyed this week. I'm going to start off, if you don't mind.
Feel free.
We had Tim Ozgener in on the show, the big show, and he came packing.
Oh.
He came
Yes,
packing
he did.
and Dave came packing. So Dave's been saving this original box from when it was either 99 or 2000 that
25 years, I think he said, wasn't
CAO was Cigar of the Year. Yeah, so that'd be 2000.
it?
So he saved a box from the year 2000, cedar box, Cameroon wrapped, Nicaraguan
Original
cigar,
Cameroon.
made by Perdomo, plenty of flavor. And so I'm gonna lump we smoked a lot of OG shit. We also had
Burned a lot of money that day.
the CAO Maduro, which was the Maduro version of that Cameroon cigar in another size. It was a little Corona. We had a 25-year-old, maybe even more,
CAO Gold.
regular CAO Gold. But the story that Tim told was back then, the manufacturers, in this case it was Placencia, there was such a demand for cigars because of the cigar boom that they used everything. So right now, for example, if you take Davidoff as a company, to be a Davidoff white label, you have to fall into a certain color spectrum to be Davidoff white label. If it falls out of that spectrum, wrapper-wise, now this is why Avo exists and why Cusano existed back in the day, and where Hammer and Sickle got their product. Just talking about the wrapper, I'm not saying that you're going to smoke an Avo and it's the same as Davidoff. That's not the point. The point is just to use up the wrapper. They would be very stringent and are very stringent about the color sorting. So why, when you open a box of Red Anchor, for example, do they all look very similar? And there is some discrepancies, light and dark, but inside that box, they're all the same, and Red Anchor only comes in this hue of maybe 2 different hues across the entire spectrum, and so that you can have enough wrapper to meet the production. But in the 90s, they would just make cigars, so they would have their Ecuadorian Connecticut or USA Connecticut tobacco and go through the pre-industry, whatever you need to. But some of those wrappers still had some chlorophyll in them. The chlorophyll had been fixed because there's not enough time in the curing barn. Now, some of the wrappers would come in golden and creamy looking, but others, and the ones that we smoked, still had a little candela hue to them and had a much more grassy flavor. With those types of wrappers, the more golden you get, the creamier the smoke is and the less dry tasting it is. And then the closer you are to the green spectrum, the more bitter and grassy the wrapper is. So we got a chance to smoke one of those. Pretty awesome to do it. I couldn't smoke the whole thing. It was just too grassy. But to be able to smoke something that lasted that long, and to have Tim and Dave both be willing to share these vintage cigars, just remarkable. I probably, if I were Tim, I'd just look at them every once in a while, because that was his dad's baby, that CAO Golden line. And I don't know that I would have shared them, but he was gracious and he shared. It was a great experience.
Incredibly generous.
So what have you smoked this week?
So, we've plugged Tim. So it's a cigar that I really just can't find in Kuwait. None of the local brick and mortars have them. Some of the international companies that I order from don't stock it, but I absolutely love it. It's the McAuliffe Black in the Robusto. For me, the Robusto is a better tasting cigar than the Toro. I know, Dave, I'm sorry, I know the Toro was Cigar of the Year, and I understand that, you know, you're also factoring in sales, you're also factoring in the value that the Toro brings compared to the Robusto. But if we are purely going on taste and experience, for me, the Robusto is a tastier cigar than the Toro.
So you like the fact that Robusto, I'm guessing here, it just comes off at the fullest flavor that you're going to get from that blend, whereas the Toro starts off a little milder and builds in strength, and that's why I like it. So I lean myself toward the Toro. It starts off a little milder in flavor, and then when it gets to where the tips are in the cigar, which is what happens at the 5-inch mark in most manufacturing facilities, is they backfill those tips at the 5-inch mark and then the 2.5-inch mark.
So at the start of the Robusto, yes.
The start of the Robusto, why do they call it a Robusto? It is the most robust in flavor that blend is going to get.
Yeah.
All things being equal. And now you're going to smoke it and get one flavor transition later in the cigar, whereas a Toro will have 2 flavor transitions. So where I smoke mostly Robustos, There are certain cigars where I gravitate toward the Toro because I want those additional flavor transitions that I may not always want, but I want them there. And if the cigars are very close in strength, I find myself smoking the Toro for the transitions. If they're not similar in strength, Corojo Reserve, for example, Corojo Reserve Robusto is much stronger than the Toro. So I don't have the same flavor experience that I get with the Toro. Yes, there is the additional flavor transition, but I don't care. I want the Robusto in that one.
For the McAuliffe Black, what's the ring gauge of the Toro? Is it a 50 as well, or is it a 52?
In the McAuliffe Black, it is a 52.
So the Robusto is a 50. I wonder if that maybe has anything to do with it as well.
It could.
You're getting, you're getting a higher percentage of the wrapper and the binder, as opposed to in the Toro, you're going to have a little bit more of the filler.
And I've heard that both ways too, because of the nature of the circumference of a cylinder, that the ratio of the circumference stays the same as the cylinder gets wider or thinner.
As a percentage, yes.
But that doesn't account for when you're smaller, the wrappers, because it's not a perfect cylinder, the wrappers do overlap. So maybe there's more overlap in a Robusto or in that particular Robusto. I don't know.
But then the bigger the ring gauge, you are going to have a higher percentage of the filler. So, I mean, you should then.
I think it's the same. I think it's the same.
Do you think?
I think that's what I've heard, that it's the same from a mathematician. That the percentage of the outer diameter of that circumference is the same ratio to filler. Whereas we've always thought when you smoke a Lancero, you're mostly getting wrapper. Now, that could be because in a Lancero, you can't put, if you're 40 ring gauge, you can't put Ligero because it won't burn. There isn't enough Viso and Seco to get the Ligero to burn. So this is hearsay, good source, Nelson Alfonso on this one. Maybe there's some manufacturers out there that do put Ligero and they found a way to make it happen, but he says there is no way to get the Ligero to burn. So factories use the term Ligero to mean the highest priming tobacco in a blend. It's a slang term.
Okay.
It's not necessarily the Ligero from the plant, but they'll say, okay, it's this Ligero to another master blender, and the blender understands ring gauge and understands combustion, that, okay, that's the highest priming tobacco in that. But if you smoke a Lancero and there's no actual Ligero from the top of a plant, they shift everything down, you're definitely going to taste the wrapper more because you don't have the punch of that Ligero tobacco. So this could be where the myth started. It may not be a myth. Nobody knows. It's just one of those things.
Oh, well, we wasted a good 5-10 minutes talking about it, so
That's
if
good.
nothing else, provided some fodder for Nick.
I smoked also, and this is not a flex, but this is part of my job, is Oliver Nouveau stopped by. He's working on a project, as he does often, and handed me a sample and wanted my opinion. And often he'll hand me a sample and he'll say, I need you to smoke this to be able to just check combustion, or I need you to see if it blows up, because there are times when factories have problems with binders and they have problems with wrappers, and I just need to know the performance. This one, he said, I need you to smoke this like it's a blind review for Cigar Journal magazine. This one's serious. We're coming down to the final couple of blends, and I need to know what you think of this one. Now, that makes me think maybe he's going to go with that one. I don't know. But I smoked it. I gave it an honest review. It came in at a 90 or a 91. Very good cigar. Really in my wheelhouse as far as flavor, which is nice. It doesn't have to be. I've scored cigars high that are not in my flavor profile. But if they perform really well and there's no off flavors, you get a high score. All right, what else you got, John?
Or you can't disclose the name of this?
No? I can't. No, because
Under wraps?
this I don't even have it on my notes because I can't. No, I can't.
In case you accidentally said it.
Well, because the cigar industry is full of a bunch of crooks, and maybe they find out I'm hosting a podcast and they listen, and then they come out with No, I mean, how many times has Dave's Firecracker been ripped off?
We had a very interesting conversation earlier about, do we name names?
No, we can't name names.
Okay,
even though this is not our show, we can't name names.
Let's not name names.
The industry's full of a bunch of rip-off artists that can't come up with their own original ideas. So now people are keeping things a secret. So right up till it's released at the trade show sometimes. So I don't know if this one's coming out at the trade show. I don't know when it's coming out.
That was
I just
gonna be my
know
next question.
Oliver asked, I need you to smoke this, which he almost never does. I need you to smoke this like it's a review for Cigar Journal magazine and give me the honest truth about the flavor profiles and transitions and everything. Soup to nuts. Pay attention to this one. It's important. And I did.
Good. All right. After recommendation from you, I smoked the Garofalo La Familia Maduro Epicure.
And how did you find that?
I found it. No, it was. No, it was really good. I mean, made by Perdomo, so you know that it is really high quality tobacco. Construction was fantastic. Burned really evenly. But the flavors were really, really interesting. First, for me, there were. Even though it was a Toro Epicure, what's that? It's a 6x54.
Correct.
I really only got two really noticeable flavor changes. First half was chocolate. It was chocolate. There was maybe a little coffee sort of sitting there in the back, maybe a little espresso sitting there in the back, just keeping an eye on things. But for me, it was very chocolate forward, and the sweetness came from the chocolate. It wasn't a baker's chocolate, it wasn't a dark chocolate, it was more of a milk chocolate sweetness. What I found when I got to the second half, the sweetness stayed, but chocolate sat back a little bit. And for me, it was like red wine.
A little jammy.
The sweetness for me came from, maybe plums, cherries, and it just, even the aroma, even the bouquet on it changed from, smelling quite like chocolate to smelling and tasting like I was drinking a nice full-bodied red. And it was a full-bodied cigar. I would probably put it on.
Yeah, where would you put it on your strength matrix?
So I would say it's probably G or H. It's a full-bodied cigar. I'm going to go H. I don't think it was particularly strong. I'm going to go middle of the road, 5. So I'm going to say it was a 5H.
So that's interesting because that puts it in the conversation with McAuliffe Black.
It does.
Which
it does.
We both have already said on this podcast we like.
I love McAuliffe Black, and I loved the Garofalo.
There's an argument to be made here that the new strength matrix could become a thing, and maybe should become a thing. We'll leave that up to Dave.
We will.
I certainly smoked more than 3 cigars.
Oh, of course, yeah. I had to pick 3. Yes.
So yeah, it came down to picking, and I picked ones that were important this week. Launched last week during my vacation was the Gold Star. The new Gold Star, 3 sizes, Gordo, Toro, Robusto. I've smoked all 3. This is another case of I end up gravitating toward the Toro, and it is just firing on all cylinders right now. I say right now because blends can change. It probably won't. It's made by Ad Ventura. William Ventura really knows his shit. He trained his kids well. They're starting to get to sort of steer that ship.
Well, they are making a name for themselves for sure.
So Gold Star Toro, I can't say enough good things about it. It's there's not a huge single flavor note that I can say, well, it's this, it's that. It has Dominican fillers in it. It has broadleaf in it. It has this nice Oscuro wrapper on the outside. There is sweetness. If I really were pushed to choose one single flavor, I might say blackstrap molasses as the sweet component that's coming from that, and a dusting of white pepper. It really is pleasant, and if you are near a brick and mortar that carries Gold Star, certainly try it. Or we do have them available at twoguyscigars.com. I don't want you to buy from Two Guys if your local brick and mortar has it, but if you like cigars that are in that area of the matrix of the Garofalo, Maduro, La Familia, and the McAuliffe Black, Padron can be in that conversation, Olmec can be in that conversation. If you like that flavor, and Dominican cigars have kind of turned you off, Gold Star is a nice way of being able to get the flavors you're after with a different taste profile that's not Nicaraguan. So just a impassioned pitch for you to try something new and exciting.
So where would you put it on the cigar maker?
Yeah, it's right in that conversation. You're at probably a G and maybe a 5 or a 6. So right here, I'll put the dot where it is. Right there.
Yeah. Well, I've had the Robusto, and I would can't necessarily compare apples to apples. I would have said probably a little lighter in body. I didn't think it was quite in the same conversation as a McAuliffe Black or the Garofalo in terms of the
I got it a tick lower.
Yes, but then you smoke the Toro. You're talking about the Toro.
Correct. Yeah.
I have a Toro to smoke, but I picked the Robusto at the time. So for me, the Robusto might even come down to, I think that might just be straight medium. I think that might be an F5.
It's too bad Nick doesn't have an after show, because we could smoke that cigar.
Oh.
And then you could report back, but this is a one-off right here. So, I don't know, it kind of feels like we've reached a natural conclusion. I just want to make sure.
I have one left.
You have one left? Oh, great.
You started this time.
Yes, you're up.
So, when I found out that Blackbird were one of the sponsors of this show, I've been smoking a lot of Blackbird, actually. One of my friends in Kuwait, Mohammed Al-Khalif, he has a cigar store out there, and he does get quite a lot of the Blackbird series. And for me lately, I've been smoking a lot of the Blackbird Cuco in Toro.
So you do mess around with a Toro from time to time?
Oh, I do.
Not just at my recommendation.
No, I do for sure. No, for me, time can be quite a big factor. By the time I get home from work, I want to spend some time with the kids. They'll sometimes go down and spend some time with their grandparents, with my wife's parents. So I'll maybe have an hour where I just want to let them spend some time with their grandparents. So an hour to the Robusto. For me, that's not a Toro. I'm not interested in speed smoking a Toro. So I'll gravitate to a Toro then. Take the kids up, put them to bed. Probably around 8 o'clock. Spend some obligatory time with the wife.
She's listening.
I hope so. So spend some obligatory time with the wife, maybe an hour or two. Depends how much of me she can stomach. And then, so sort of later on in the night, I'll probably have maybe a couple hours. So then, enough time for a Toro. Maybe sit and read, or maybe sit and watch.
So you're good for roughly 2 cigars a day?
Yeah.
Unless you're on vacation, because I know you've already
chain smoking.
You've already had 2. So
well, usually
it's only 10 o'clock.
If I can, usually I'll get a good maybe hour in the afternoon at work, where I can sit and smoke. So I'm probably good for 3 a day on the weekdays. Weekends might be able to bump up to 4. But
what would you say cigar prices are like in Kuwait versus here in the United States?
They're about 3 times as expensive. Because
of taxes or imports?
Both. So Mohammed is buying cigars, for example, fine, he's buying them at wholesale prices, you would assume. As I think he'll buy through, brokers and distributors. I don't think he necessarily buys through, direct from manufacturer.
Yeah, most countries in that area, there's distributors that take care of that. Because you can't, it actually is, I think, cheaper for the manufacturers to be able to deal with one guy.
Quite possibly.
Because now they can ship in pallets.
Yeah. And
they get a discount that way versus shipping in individual crates.
Yeah. So there you've got the cost of the cigars. Then you've obviously got the costs associated with shipping these products, whether that be via boat, whether that be via plane. I am not a cigar retailer. I have no idea what that would cost, but I would assume it's probably quite expensive to do. And the taxes in Kuwait are 100%.
Wow.
As well.
At least it's not outlawed, but Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. So you're now sort of talking about 3 times the price. But Mohammed is really good. He has a full-time job. He does this because he enjoys it. He loves cigars and wants to share that with other people. So his profit margin is, and again, I don't know the accounts and that for some of the other brick and mortars there, but he does seem to come in a good bit cheaper than some of the others. For example, like the box of Blackbird Cuco that's a box of 21, I think they're 777. That for me was about 65 KD, and
what does that convert to US dollars? Just because I'm an idiot and I don't know the conversion rates.
It's fine. About 3.2. About 3.2. So, like for easy counting, let's say 3.
$300 to $20.
No, not quite. So 65 times 2 is 130. Add another 65. You're about 195, 200.
Oh, okay, that's reasonable.
It is. It really, really is. So I'm not sure whether he's just getting a really good deal on the Blackbird, or he really is, managing to cut his costs really well.
Yes, called smuggling.
I
like that.
But no, the Blackbird Cuco really good. He had quite a good stock of those in. I mean, over the last probably 6 months, a year, I've had the Crow, which is the Mexican San Andreas wrapper. Really, really good. Had it's the Amazing, which is the Habano wrapper, also fantastic. The Brazilian wrapper, Blackbird, that is the, it's the purple band. That might come back to me. I might just shout something later.
That's fine.
Remember what
we don't have much time left, so.
But anyway, we'll go back to the Cuco. It's a Criollo wrapper, and Criollo is not something I come across very often as a wrapper. Usually that would be more a filler. Is that right?
Often,
from your experience?
There is Criollo wrappers. They can get wrappers. They're always trying to grow wrappers, so they can get wrappers out of Criollo 99 and Criollo 98. But it's tough. Wrapper growing in and of itself, obviously the most expensive leaf on the plant, if you can get a great leaf to be able to produce wrappers. Not super prevalent in the cigar industry.
No, so as I say, I've been smoking, I think I've bought maybe 3 or 4 boxes of these lately, and lemongrass.
One of my favorite flavors.
Lemongrass with just a really nice balanced amount of white pepper.
And that is almost exclusively the flavor profile I get from Nicaraguan Criollo.
It's so good. I'm not actually sure where
I'm not saying it is from Nicaragua. I'm just saying when I smoke something and I know it has Nicaraguan Criollo, it seems that I'm getting that lemongrass flavor every time.
I want to say it's Dominican off the top of my head, but no, it's lemongrass with a little bit of white pepper. It's absolutely fantastic.
So you can find the Cigar Pulpit on Instagram, Facebook, he doesn't do much with Twitter or X, but he is on there, and once in a while he likes one of my posts. He's on Rumble,
Well, someone has to.
Spotify video, YouTube. We have the Ask the Pulpit hotline, which is 863-874-0000. That's 863-874-000. And this has been another sermon from the Cigar Pulpit. I'm not Nick. I'm Mr. Jonathan. This is John Calder. Stay smoky, my friends. Might be my favorite part of the show is sort of the little during the outro little chit chat. But
or if we were newsreaders and we'd be doing the shuffling of the papers.
Right.
And,
how do you think we did? How did you feel you did?
I got a little caught up. I tripped over myself a couple of times, but eventually got it out.
That's why
the
notes are so important, to be able to just have it, to be able to refer to.
I think it was when I started ad-libbing, when I started talking about the boss for this and stuff like that. It was when I sort of went off sort of script, started to lose it a little bit. I mean, yeah, a couple of places, but I just tried to forget that was there, honestly, and I just tried to.
It ends up being
like I most of the time I was like looking over in your direction, because I was trying to forget that was there.
It's really a good podcast. I think boils down to just having a solid conversation with somebody and keeping in mind you don't want too much dead air, but a little dead air, whatever. It is what it is, and it's not our podcast. We don't have to worry about it.
Yeah, I am not a professional.
Nick, I hope you feel better, and I very
sure.
much appreciate you letting us fill in. It just happened that John was staying at my house from Kuwait, and we had some great conversations, and we were able to rehab those conversations. So stick the lid end in your mouth. You might like it. Oh, I forgot to hit record. We have to do it all again.